but it just spread so quickly. It went from South Central, it went to West Los Angeles, it went to Rampart Division. Within hours, had to pull back and regroup because it was so unsafe.
So within hours, as a police unit, y'all were like, basically retreat, regroup.
We locked down.
Something else out.
We locked down.
So racism doesn't go anywhere. It's the actual.
It hasn't gone anywhere.
Right.
I mean, well, okay. I don't want people to email us. I'm not saying the United States is the same as it was. I'm just saying like that the human tendency, right? That part of the human heart doesn't just go away.
Parents coddle kids and try and prevent them from going through hardships. I'm not afraid to let you fail to make you a better person.
I think it's a form of prejudice when we think of the Hollywood elite and we put them all in the same category. They're all snobs. You really think that every single Hollywood celebrity is cut from the exact same cloth? There's gotta be some down-to-earth, nice, kind, generous, courteous.
So Harrison Ford, Wilford Brimley, I've cooked for Cheech Marin, Cheech and Chong. I have cooked for, oh goodness gracious, Whoopi Goldberg, Burgess Meredith, of course. I've met and cooked for Eddie Van Halen, Pat Benatar. Frank Sinatra did make a visit, although I did not get to meet him. No one got close to him.
All right, well, welcome everybody, YouTubers, people listening. We have Tomelex, Jack, and we have a new guy that you're about to meet, Martin and Schanley, right?
Schanley, yes.
So if you're a patron, what's up? You're watching live, and Tomelex, you walked in here with a very interesting question that you said somebody wanted to know what Jack thought about this.
Yeah,
and
Derek
I said,
Bellamy.
time
You know
out.
Derek Bellamy?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Time out, wait for the podcast.
Yeah.
It's all yours, Tomelex, because
So
I want to
Derek
hear.
Bellamy had a friend who, basically there were two questions. The first one was, how do you plainly explain the difference between God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit?
Mm-hmm.
And then it went to, when you pray, who do you pray to? Are you praying to Jesus? Are you praying to God? Like, who are we praying to?
So that's where I hadn't really thought about it. So I guess first thing I would say is I don't think that if you pray to any of like the Father, the Son,
Any
the
of
Holy
those
Spirit,
guys.
I don't think any of them are like, whoa, like, hey, look, I don't like if you walk into someone's office, you're like, I don't do that actually. You gotta go talk to
Jesus is like, are you asking me something?
Yeah,
You got to go to the
guy
Father.
doing? I say that, I pray to the Father, but I think it's good to have conversations with Jesus, if that makes sense, which is also praying. But when I, kind of like take time out and I'm going to like, all right, I'm going to, I want to pray. I want to, talk to God. I most often talk to the Father. If I feel like I just want to have a conversation, a lot of times I'll talk like I'm talking to Jesus. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's just kind of how I do it.
Yeah.
What about you? Do you have a part of the Trinity in mind when you're praying? I think mine kind of rotates. There's times when I'm talking to Jesus. There's times when I'm asking the Holy Spirit to fill me with presence. And then there's times where I'm like, God, and I'm thinking the Father.
Yeah, like I think it kind of rotates between all of them. Like when I'm sitting there and I'm praying, oftentimes if I'm going through something, I'm like, Jesus, give me discernment.
Mm-hmm.
Or God, give me discernment. Or Holy Spirit, lead me through. Like, so yeah, I would say that I pray to all of them.
But it is interesting, if we're supposed to follow Jesus' example, he said, pray like this. And obviously it wasn't, dear Jesus, it was our Father.
Yeah.
So that is interesting.
Well, but I also think, so the disciples after he ascended was like, what, like I don't get to talk to my friend anymore? Like, that doesn't make sense either.
Right.
And so that's why it's like, look, if I was actually thinking about this, where like I don't think it's wrong to say, okay, so one of the things I think about a lot is like the parent-child metaphor in terms of like we're the children of God, because it's just interesting to me how the metaphor doesn't completely work, because one of my jobs as a dad is to make it so that one day my kids don't need me anymore. Like if my kids are 40 and need me, that's a problem. It's not to say that I'm not in their life and that they don't come to me for advice or questions, but that's not the same as the way a child needs a parent. Well, so obviously that's a little bit different with us and God. But one of the things I was thinking today is like one way I think that it is that the metaphor it does really work is I think, as we grow in our faith, one thing we do become greater in our understanding of is that we're God's friends. So like right now, like with my dad, or I think with a good relationship with a parent, when you become an adult, you do transition to become more of a friend, right? And I think that's good. And so I think that's a way in which, I do wish we would talk a little bit less about, like Christians who've been a Christian for a long time, talk a little bit less about being God's children, more about being God's friend. Because I do think there's a little bit of a difference there, even though both are true. And so that's why, like, when it comes to Jesus, it's like talking to a friend, and, you can familiarize that too much, right? Like
Jesus is my homie.
Well, you can make it too casual and kind of forget who you're talking to. Like I've seen people do that. I've done that, I'm sure. But I do think it's good to remember that, like someone said, like God doesn't just love you, he likes you. And that's an important distinction too. There are plenty of people I love that I don't especially like.
Any of them sitting in this room?
That's not really important.
I've already told him that I was going to beat him up one day, so there is that.
So anyway. Yeah.
Interesting stuff, man. Thanks. Cheers to Tomelex for bringing a...
Actually, Derek.
Yeah.
What?
Cheers to Derek.
That's true.
Question.
That's true. Well, Martin, I hope this doesn't make you uncomfortable, but you are a sweet, sweet dude. Like I've known you now for a handful of months. You've been coming to Seacoast for how long?
Just about 2 years, and I've been on the dream team for the online production team for Online Church for a year now. And this is the first time Tomelex and Jack are meeting you. I think it was the first time we met. I don't know how we got into this, but you were telling of your experiences in LA as a cop during the LA riots, and then as a chef who was serving tons of celebrities. As a Rocky fan, I love what you told me about Burgess Meredith, who played Mickey, if you're not as familiar with that actor name. I can't wait to hear more of those stories today. Before that, though, I've got some things I want to discuss with all of y'all. And I told you, Martin, if you want to sit back and relax and observe, feel free, but also feel free to chime in. But before we start anything, I want to say to a new patron, thank you, Christina Hardesty, for becoming a patron. And just a reminder that every single dime when you become a patron goes toward our ministry efforts in local prisons. And you get some extra content. You get live feeds of our recordings, and there's a T-shirt coming up that I told you about.
Let's go.
The real Mr. T.
I can't wait to see it.
And there's going to be a picture of Pastor Tomelex on it just for patrons. So, Jack, you would be proud of me. You'll be proud and disappointed. I fact-checked myself after I said something on the podcast.
Okay.
Yep. So I made a comment on the podcast recently about turtles living up to like 400 years. Mm-hmm. And it was made in passing, but I fact-checked myself and I have a correction. I was thinking about something I had read about Greenland sharks, which very close, turtles and sharks. But y'all want to hear some interesting stuff about turtles and sharks real quick? It's fascinating.
You know I love sharks, so don't be telling me the lies, because I will call you.
All right, so here's what's crazy is sea turtles as a whole live 40 to 80 years. Now, great tortoises, 100 to 150, but sharks are 20 to 70 years. So as a whole, turtles do outlive sharks. Science lesson, do y'all know why turtles live so long? Y'all got any stabs at that? There's 3 reasons that I found in my thorough research. Any guesses?
Nope.
All right.
Humans
Martin?
don't hunt them.
Very slow metabolism, strong cellular repair, and then minimal age-related decline. And then a word that I don't know how to say, nor do I know what it means. Some show negligible senescence. Is that a word? Senescence? S-E-N-E-S.
Yeah.
What's that mean?
I'm not going to tell you.
Okay, he's not going to tell me.
Check this yourself.
All right, so check this out about sharks. And the Greenland shark, and that's what I was thinking of. They can live up to 250 to 400 years. So imagine there could be a shark swimming in the ocean right now that was 300 years old when the Titanic went down. That's unbelievable. Is that not unbelievable?
Yeah.
I mean, aren't you happy that you're podcasting right now just to hear that? So here's a fun fact about Greenland sharks. Greenland sharks don't reach sexual maturity until 150 years old. That's crazy. But that would be a really boring life to live that long and to be a shark.
Yeah, but are they living like human years or shark years?
No,
Kinda
these
like
are
dog
these are
years.
real years. These are real years.
Mhm.
That's insane. That's absolutely insane to live that long.
Well, do you know that there's still a tortoise alive that is still alive in St. Helena, California? Andrew Jackson was president. He's estimated 193 years old. He was born approximately 1832, and he was moved to St. Helena in 1882. His name's Jonathan.
Wow. Jonathan. And I guess it's being taken really good care of because it's such a special tortoise.
Yep, still going.
I got to Google that. Check out Jonathan. That's awesome. All right. Well, I wanted to have this conversation. I've been saving it for a while. I wanted to have it where we have a room full of parents, and we don't have any mothers here, but we got 4 fathers. So I'm going to ask you guys a pretty general question, and it is, can your idol be your kids? Can kids be your idol? So I guess when we think of idols as a Christian, that's something that goes before God. Can your kids be your idol?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right. So my follow-up question is, does this signify an idol if your happiness can depend on theirs? Because there's a part of me that feels like I don't know if we can completely disconnect that. Now, I know that my kids are idols oftentimes when I see my worrying getting out of hand, it impeding on my day-to-day mental health, for instance, worrying about them or worrying about the future, things that are none of my business to worry about, things that I have the opportunity to trust God about. But can we separate our happiness from our kids?
Can we? Yes. Do we? Not often.
Yeah. Because Chip has said something that stuck with me. I think about it all the time and I use it all the time, that we need to learn when it comes to people in general to care without carrying. So caring about people, but not carrying their burdens. And I don't know if that's possible, or maybe I'll put it this way. I don't know if it's possible with kids. Would y'all say that would be God's will with your kids, to care about them, but not carry them? I'd say maybe as parents, it's just a part of the role and just nature that our hearts are heavy when their hearts are heavy. That may be a good thing.
Okay. I'm always...
You hear where I'm going here,
No, I
Jack?
do.
Because sometimes I don't do a great job.
So I feel like, it's been a while since I've done one of these with Chip, but like Chip and I always give each other a hard time on these because that's fun. But genuinely, I'm always hesitant to disagree with Chip in anything touching on like counseling or relationships, just because, he has a lot more experience, expertise, and just, I think, wisdom than I do there. I think with kids, my inclination is that you're, in terms of just specifically the parent-child relationship, you're talking about individuals who don't know how to carry things themselves necessarily. And so, like, that's one of the things you're trying to help them do. It's like one of the discussions I have with my boys. So my boys are 12 and 9, and they are very, very different from one another. And growing up, so like one of them, dealt with, kind of like being afraid of going to bed by himself and needing us to be in with him until he fell asleep longer than the other child. And the other child is kind of like, why does he need that? He shouldn't need that. I didn't need that. And part of it was explaining to him, it's like, he's not you. And you needed some things when you were that age that he doesn't need, right? Like, we had to do some things for you longer than we ever had to do for him. And that's fine. And so I just think like I just don't know that there's a neat answer for that.
Well, let me age your kids a bit, and let's just say one of them is 17 and they just got heartbroken over a girl, and you're watching them actually experience that sort of emotional pain. So kind of a different season of life. It's not a physical need that you can necessarily take care of. You're seeing them in emotional turmoil. Should you kind of try to separate yourself from carrying that? Because it's theirs to carry. You can't carry the heartbrokenness because you're not heartbroken over the girl.
I guess I wish Chip were here because I'd be curious to know what he means by carrying.
And I'm not sure if he would say this necessarily about kids in general. When he talks about this, it's, the example that he goes to is in counseling situation. He really cares about that person he's sitting with. He's investing everything into them, his attention, his heart. But when he walks away, he can't carry what they just gave him. He can't be thinking about it all the time.
Yeah, I'd want to know if he how he would analogize that to kids, because I just don't know that it is the same to what he's talking about there.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you're responsible to help them learn how to carry it. But you can't carry things. I think one of the things you do have to be careful with as parent is you can't fix everything for your kids, and you have to let them experience pain. So again, one of my kids right now is dealing with I hate to say anxiety, but he's just scared of some things. And kind of what I've told him is, it's I can't let you keep being scared of these things. And so you're going to have to just do them. No, I'm not going to do this that you're asking me to do because you don't need me to. And I need you to learn that you don't need me to do this for you. And he doesn't like that answer, but it's the answer he needs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Meeting it head on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Dawn Staley had a great quote, and she said that I bring girls into South Carolina to grow them, and I do exactly what their parents don't do. Because parents coddle kids and try and prevent them from going through hardships. I'm not afraid to let you fail to make you a better person.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
And oftentimes we prevent our kids from failing, and we really do them a disservice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I read a book, I think last year, called The Coddling of the American Mind. And it basically shows how in this latest generation, so cognitive behavioral therapy is a proven, very helpful tool, and it's meeting your problems head on and figuring out, how am I thinking about this inaccurately? Kind of what Jack's doing with his kids. Hey, you're the one thinking about this and not in a good way. You need to meet this head on. That's my words, not his. Mm-hmm. But basically, we're raising a culture up that is saying anything that causes discomfort or pain, you avoid because it's not good for you.
Right.
Walk away. You've got the oldest kids. How have you navigated just the heart connection of your kids and seeing them suffer? And
I think
how old are you have?
So I have a 25 down to an 18-year-old.
Okay.
So I have 5. I think the biggest part that I did as a parent was letting them experience that hardship, letting them experience that grief, and how they can walk through it, because it's going to come. You're going to have hardship. You're going to have heartbreak in your life. And how do you meet that head on? How is it that you go through life? I can give them my personal experiences. Well, this is how I did it, but you have to figure this out and just kind of walk them through it. My son just recently had that, where he did have a breakup after a couple of years. And it's just about kind of walking them through that and being there for them, but not taking on that burden. Yeah. It's not our burden to carry.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with you. I think we've done a huge disservice to our children in the last decade or so of kind of isolating them, putting them in a bubble, and protecting them. We're not protecting them. We're not getting them ready for the real world. We're not setting them up for success down the road.
Yeah. It's kind of like, instead of what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, it's what doesn't kill you, avoid. Anything that causes you pain. All right. So I thought this was super interesting. I ran into two, how Instagram post, Jack is rolling his eyes right now, but it basically tries to have this zinger and boom, we just got you, and this is so important and you need to abide by this. And it was just interesting because both of them involved parenting kids, and both of them were the complete opposite. And I have my opinion about this. I want to hear y'all's. But one perspective was basically living your life for your kids. And that was, hey, they're going to be gone before you know it. Focus your time and your energy on them. Your own goals and own dreams can be put to the side. You're going to regret not giving them your undivided attention. Kids first, kids first, kids first. It's a warning. You need to, the time is going to fly by before you know it, and you're going to have tons of regrets. Complete opposite perspective was live your life while your kids are with you, because they're going to be gone before you know it. And then you're going to look around and be like, what did I do with my life? Where's my career? Where's my dreams? I was living my life for my kids. Now they're gone. And now what do I do? You put too much stock, too much energy in your kids. I'll just say, and this may be a quick conversation because y'all may be like, agreed. I think it's a both and.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because both are important. Don't put yourself always before your kids. And I would say in some regard, put your kids first just as a general rule of thumb because they're your responsibility. But for sure, don't put your needs above your kids' needs, or else you shouldn't have had kids. But it's okay to see for your kids to see you go after goals and your dreams. It's a good example. And I would say there are probably even times when it's the appropriate thing to say, hey, dad is working on something. I can't spend time with you right now. That shouldn't be the norm, but that's okay for the kids to see, oh, sometimes there's stuff that's so important. Now, I don't mean a kid coming up to you and saying, hey, I really need to talk to you about something. Sorry, I'm working. I don't mean that, but anyway, throwing that out to you guys.
But so I guess I think like both the point of views you expressed are like they're both equally unhealthy on their own. I think it is one of the discussions I think Laura and I had when our oldest was a baby, just in terms of setting when do I work in my office and when do I? It's like I think your kids should both see you stop what you're doing to go play with them, and tell them, hey, I need to finish this. When I'm done,
agreed.
Let's hang out. I think both of those are important. Because one of the things I might do is, I think it's good for my boys to see me working on things. And I also feel like this isn't really hyperbole. I do kind of feel this way. And I don't have a lot of respect for men who don't know how to get down on the ground and play with children. I just think you should be able to do both of those things. Yeah. Like my dad, people I've met a lot of adults who were intimidated by my dad.
Yeah.
I wish they could see when we're around some of my cousins who have little kids, or when some of my cousins were little kids, because I'm the oldest of 21 grandkids on my dad's side, and our ages are all over the place. I'm my dad knows how to play with 2-year-olds, and he's every bit as good at it as he is at doing adult stuff. I think both of those things matter. And I think your kids should see their parents be able to do both of those things. It's if you don't know how to play with your kids, that's a problem. And if you don't know how to get things done that aren't your kids, that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
And I remember back when Malia was born, one of my greatest frustrations with Melissa was that she let Malia consume her.
Mm-hmm.
So and I get it. Part of it is, her trying to do schedules and all of that. But when Melissa went to work, that first day I had Malia, we went to the barber shop. And she's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I got to go get my hair cut. And she's like, but her nap time is... And I was like, and she can sleep in a car seat. There comes a point to where you just can't stop living in 100% focus on your child. But when you start talking idle, the biggest thing is a lot of us try and live our lives vicariously through our kids, and we push them into doing things. I just think of the cheer competition thing that they have on whatever the show is, and these women are spending hours and hours and days because they are so obsessed with seeing their kid achieve something. And I check my own heart because Malia plays volleyball. And I'm like, how much of this is me wanting this for her? And how much of this is her wanting this for her? Mm-hmm. And am I making sure that she's not finding her identity in a volleyball and she's finding her identity it's,
Yeah. So we all agree both and.
Both and.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. All right, so one more question, and Lynn, for those of you that listen regularly, you'll know why I'm saying this. Lynn will be happy to miss this conversation.
Uh-oh.
And You're fine with them. You always say, "Hey, if we can't talk about this stuff, then you can't hear my perspective."
That means it's something on race.
But we're about to turn all of our attention to Martin and hear his perspective of a cop during the LA riots. It was 91 or 92?
92, May of 1992.
Note to everybody, one of the best documentaries I've ever seen, I think it's called LA 92, and it's on the riots. It is an unbelievable documentary. But I was looking through, kind of looking at the whole year coming up for this podcast, looking at when Mother's Day is. Maybe we'll do a special Mother's Day episode, but I found a way too comprehensive list of holidays, and some of them were specific to states. And I was kind of surprised about some of the celebrations that some of the states focus some attention on during certain days of the year. And I've got some questions about these. So Texas has a Confederate Heroes Day. So the Confederates that fought the Union in the Civil War. Alabama, Mississippi, Florida, have a Robert E. Lee's birthday holiday, and then those states plus South Carolina and North Carolina have a Confederate Memorial Day. Now, obviously, these we don't hear about these, but it's official as a holiday. So I will say I think we're far enough from the Civil War to be able to talk candidly about these things. Do you guys know, though, the last Civil War veteran? When he died, what would be y'all's guess? Kind of doing the math in your head. What year do you think the last Civil War veteran died? You're cheating. You're trying to look at my paper.
What are you thinking about an owl? Dude.
What do y'all think?
I wish I could look at that paper.
What would be y'all's guess? His name was Albert Henry Woolson, and he was a Union soldier. He died August 2nd at the age of 106 years old. What would y'all guess? Duluth, Minnesota. 106 years old, he died.
So, what, 58?
Nice. 56. And I've often thought, like, when is the last World War II veteran? There's plenty of them right now, because I'm the weirdo that researches that. Like, how many World War II veterans are around? That's going to be weird when there's no more of them left. But my question is, for holidays that are focused on the Confederate States of America, a government that and country that does not exist anymore, that only existed during a war, what are we celebrating? Like, I don't understand. And I'll just ask you guys, would you say when you hear that, would you say that you're for that? Oh, that's great. Or opposed, or neutral, and why? And then I've got some follow-up questions.
Why everybody looking at me?
I'm looking at everybody.
I was looking at Joey. I don't want to go first.
Well, and I'll say this. There's something about being a product of your culture. And so I will say that I don't look at people that fought for the Confederacy as all bad people. I think humans are more nuanced than that. Now, I think knowingly or unknowingly, they were fighting for an unjust cause, and that's an understatement because it was linked to racism, but I don't necessarily see Robert E. Lee as a person that we should loathe. But I also think, I don't know why we would celebrate Robert E. Lee, because he's known for trying to secede a different country from America, and they were doing it to protect slavery. So I don't get a Robert E. Lee holiday.
I mean, the hard part for me is that most times when you celebrate something, you celebrate winning. And we're celebrating a group of people that lost. But at the same time, if I have a personal heritage-ish tie to a person, I am going to be raised knowing all of the great things that this person done. Like, I don't know what Robert E. Lee did. outside of the Civil War stuff.
And I think he was a very gifted commander.
Right.
You know his Civil War stuff. Wasn't he like really good at his job?
I don't know if he led a army through Maryland and saved 10,000 people. Like I don't know, but I'm sure the people who celebrate his holiday do. So,
well, I think it's important to allow cultures to remember their history. We can't, if we erase history, then we don't learn from what our past was. If we get rid of it, then what can we learn from it?
I would agree, but wouldn't you say these are two different things? Remembering history as opposed to actually having a holiday that celebrates?
Well, the Confederacy wasn't just about slavery. It was definitely about a culture. If you look back at the Civil War, it wasn't just about slavery. It was about states' rights. It was about federal, the Union seizing property in the states. It was about taxes. There was money involved in it. So it was way more than just slavery. Slavery was obviously the biggest portion of it. That was the focal point. But there was other reasons why they wanted to secede from the Union.
Yeah.
So it was a culture of, hey, this is how we live down here. Don't try to change it from us.
Yeah.
So there was more to it than just that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's part of that. I think we have to remember that. And that's part of that history.
Mm-hmm. You got anything before I have my last question on this?
So one thing I think is, I tend to think that, countries should celebrate the people they want to celebrate. Just do. I mean, I think as soon as you started saying like, this is who we're allowed to celebrate, this is who we're not allowed to celebrate, I think that's foolish. There are people who commemorate and admire people in U.S. history that I don't think should be admired, but I'm not going to go try and stop them from doing that. Listen, I do think there's a difference, though. What I don't think is I don't think the Confederacy should be commemorated. I think one of the things, so Lincoln's view was, in terms of the Confederacy, was that it wasn't real. And his deal was like, nothing has happened. They're states in rebellion, but they have not seceded because that's not a thing. They are a part of the United States of America, and this is basically an insurgency that we're going to go quash because these states are still a part of the United States of America. So his view is like, legally, nothing has happened. And that's why I can exert authority over these territories, because they are the United States of America. Like secession is illegitimate. So I don't think the Confederacy should be commemorated. And also, slavery was...
So that would include fallen soldiers that fought for the Confederacy?
No, it wouldn't. I'm saying the institution, the government, whatever you want to call it, the Confederacy as a thing.
Because the Confederate Memorial Day, that's honoring the fallen soldiers.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's like, because also Lincoln's deal with the Confederacy is that these are Americans, and reconciliation was paramount for Lincoln. Like, one of the things that really was a problem with Reconstruction was Andrew Johnson just indulged all of the worst inclinations of, retribution and punishment and all of these things. And that really poisoned a lot of what came after.
And for people that need to brush up on your history, he took Lincoln's place after the
he was Lincoln's VP and he became president. And so Lincoln's just like, these are Americans. And because they are Americans, like, reconciliation is what has to happen after this. Like, we can't brand them as like, these are evil people and they need to be erased from history. It's like, no, they're Americans who did something wrong and they need to be brought back. So I think you can admire. I mean, there are Union soldiers that you shouldn't admire, but I do think you can. I do think you can remember. I do think you can celebrate. I'm just going to say some Confederate soldiers, generals, as Americans who were doing something that they thought was faithful to the ideals of the country, even though I think they were wrong about that. And so, yeah, like I think you can commemorate Robert E. Lee. I think you can consider him a great general and a great man, even though he did something profoundly wrong and lost. So, I mean, that's kind of my feeling. But I'm also, I don't get particularly exercised over it.
All right, so here's the zinger, but I really mean this as like a thought-provoking deal, because I was thinking about it, I was like, man, I wonder. So let's say the South won, and we've been two different countries side by side all this time. Do you think that socially the South would have matured by 2026 and not have slavery? So imagine if the North was like, well, dadgummit, we lost. Now we have to let the South do what the South is going to do. Here we are in 2026. Would slavery still be here? I want to kind of believe, I know that humans can be really bad, and I also believe in a lot of goodness in humans. And I want to say that at this point, everybody would have recognized this ain't good. And I want to hope that it would have been a little while ago. But if you go back to the 60s, it doesn't sound too promising. Honestly.
So are there still slaves in Africa?
I mean, there's slaves all over the world.
So what makes you feel like we would be any different? Like, I cannot with confidence say that it would be changed.
I personally couldn't imagine it, and that's a scary thought to think that slavery could still be around today.
So, okay, I don't think it would be. But
Do you think this is a silly question?
No, I don't.
Okay.
No, I don't. I don't think it would be around, but it has nothing to do with morality. First of all, I don't think the South would exist. I think it would have been a failed state within 5 years.
Interesting.
Maybe 10. Because the deal is, the South was poor compared to the North. They had some crops, but like cotton, their whole thing about cotton was already, they were already in trouble there because they were producing so much of it that it was kind of becoming, the value was dropping. But the deal is like slavery is an incredibly inefficient basis for an economy. You can't build an economy, like a whole economy on it. The North, like compared to the North, the South was poor. It's one of the reasons they lost, is the North was heavily industrialized compared to the South. So the South couldn't make anything. And the North just, overwhelmed the South with everything they could make. So one, the South would have been a failed state within a few years because they didn't have any basis to continue. But even if they hadn't, they would have had to acknowledge at some point that industrializing is better than just relying on human labor for everything. And so slavery would have died out if they wanted to actually be a real country with a real economy. So anyway, so I don't think it would, like if the South survived, which I don't think it would have, I don't think there would be slavery, but it has nothing to do with morality. It simply has to do with it's really not a viable economic model.
All right, so not being a viable economic model, what would keep people from having a house slave that serves them dinner and gets their coffee in the mornings? I mean, that seems like a convenience.
Like unpaid?
No, unpaid. It seems like that would be an example of why would you give that up if you don't see anything wrong with it? Doesn't have anything to do with economics. It has to do with convenience, and you don't have to do anything for yourself. And you're rich; you can afford it.
Well, I mean, if you're rich, affording doesn't come into it if you're not paying them. I mean, at that point, it's like if you can't maintain slavery at a certain level, you can't just grab someone and be like, all right, I own you.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't work. You can't do it.
Yeah.
They'll just kind of give you the finger and walk away. It really depends on like how much power do you have over this people group, and can you do that? And some point you can't. Like I couldn't do that. Even like could Elon Musk just make someone his slave? It'd be very difficult for him to do. Just to have someone who doesn't get anything and has to do all these things. But also, he wouldn't do it because there's no point in him doing it. The cost of doing that far outweighs any benefit of having an unpaid person doing some menial job for him. So again, it's like, if your entire society is based on we need these people to do this thing for us, then it becomes possible in other places to do that. But once that has nothing to do with your society in a meaningful way, you don't just keep doing it because you think it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like, not because you're a better person, but just because at some point it's like, this doesn't make any sense for me to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And like morality isn't really a part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's noteworthy that and we could talk about this for tons of episodes, but the flack that Christianity gets in this country, a lot of people have a sour taste in their mouth for many reasons, some of them justified, but Christianity and the gospel message is eventually what started the abolishment of slavery. I think that's a important reminder of just how important the gospel and church is. Any last words before we move on to Martin altogether?
I'm just impressed that Jack actually thinks that it'd be done. I can't see it.
Well, again, it has nothing to do with people being better.
Yeah, people don't give up easy ways to make money or easy living without being forced.
Well, so here's an example, like of guys not being served. So that's a very risky thing for that establishment to do, because there could be a real cost associated with that. And so, I think there are a lot of people who will treat people of color better, not because they are not racist, but just because they're aware of a real social cost if they don't.
That's true.
That's
fair.
That's really my point. Is it's not that the South would be a good place. It's just that I think their economic model was just not viable. Like, they were on a path to being a failed state if they were able to successfully secede. And so
racism doesn't go anywhere. It's the actual.
It hasn't gone anywhere.
Right.
I mean, well, okay. I don't want people to email us. I'm not saying the United States is the same as it was. I'm just saying like that the human tendency, right? That part of the human heart doesn't just go away. But there are things that you don't do in public, even though it's in your heart, because there's a cost associated with it. And that's not a bad thing for there to be external checks on human behavior, even if you aren't a better person for it. And that's kind of my thing, is I think just the way that like the momentum and the trajectory of the world was away from, in the West, was away from slavery for both moral and economic reasons. And so I think it's very difficult for me to imagine the South would have been unaffected by that, especially for 150 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Anything else? You good?
Good.
So LA riots, 92, among the deadliest and most destructive civil disturbances in U.S. history, marked by I found a couple of stats, but it looks as if 50 to 63 deaths, thousands of injuries, obviously looting, arson, about $1.4 billion in property damage. That's 34 years ago, and making it one of the largest instances of unrest in American history, particularly in the 20th century. In comparison, pandemic, George Floyd era, 19 to 20 deaths, and this was all over the country. 1 to 2 billion. It's hard to get the actual stats on property damage, but I do want to throw this out there. Fun fact about the rioting in 1920 or 21, whatever it was, 90% of the riots were peaceful. So it's the other 10% that caused havoc. Why are you confused?
Fun fact about riots is not really...
90%.
There's got to be a better way to say it.
90%.
Interesting fact about the riots. Intriguing fact about the riots.
Fun fact about the protests.
Hilarious fact about the riots. It's just not.
How about protest?
That sounds better, because when you say riot, I don't think none.
Did I say fun fact about riots?
Yes.
Yeah.
My bad. My bad. But that's crazy to think that 90% was peaceful during that time of unrest. So it was, 10% is what caused the deaths and the damage. But what was your occupation in 1992 in LA like?
So I was a reserve police officer at West LA Division in 1992.
Mm-hmm. And were you guys, was it like a thing where y'all were thinking, ooh, if this is an innocent verdict, this could be really bad? Like, were y'all thinking ahead? And did you Did you personally, or as a network of police, did y'all think one way or the other that it was going to go one way or the other with Rodney King?
I was not expecting a vindication, and they were acquitted. I don't think any of us were prepared for that. I mean, of course, LA, they made a lot of contingency plans, but I don't think they were prepared for an acquittal. That kind of surprised everything. And when that verdict came out, I think we were I was kind of like, I was shocked. Mm-hmm. Because I didn't think that was going to occur. I kind of expected a guilty verdict, to be honest.
Yeah. And when the guilty verdict didn't come and all of them were acquitted, was there an immediate, oh no, this is probably not going to go well? Or was these riots in LA, did they come as a surprise? Like, oh my gosh.
I don't think it's a surprise. I think in as fast as it spread was the surprise, because it started very, very small. The first incident actually was not at the corner of 54th and Van Ness. It was about 3 blocks up where it really kind of started, and then quickly moved to that intersection. And I say 54th and Van Ness because that's where Reginald Denny was taken out of his truck. Mm-hmm. And that's where the focal point of the riot. But it really didn't start there. It started several blocks up. That was the focal point. And from there, it spiraled so quickly. It just went from there. And of course, media, we didn't have phones back then, so it didn't spread that fast. So it was all on the news coverage, but it just spread so quickly, down the street, neighborhoods, other areas. It went from South Central, it went to West Los Angeles, it went to Rampart Division, it went to Hollywood Division. Within hours, we had to pull back and regroup because it was so unsafe at that time.
So within hours, as a police unit, y'all were like, basically retreat, regroup.
We locked
figure
down.
Something else out.
We locked down.
So there was zero law enforcement for a span of time.
That evening, pretty much, we were off the streets at that point because it was so dangerous. At that point, buildings were on fire, looting was occurring. It wasn't till late that night that we started back out on the streets during that.
And what did that look like for you personally? Did you make arrests? Was your life ever in jeopardy? I mean, I would say in general, probably all of your lives were.
We all were. We were getting shot at. It was scary. I remember towards the end of our shift, we all got called in. All of our beepers went off. We were all mobilized in the Valley Division and sent in on buses with heavy CHP guidance escorted in. And we went to kind of get some rest, and we went into Montgomery Wards in West LA. It was right on the border of West LA and South Central, very close to each other. And we went in the store, and it had already been cleared. And the destruction inside the store. I remember vividly, there was a big screen TV, and this is when big screen TVs were 200 pounds. They were the big floor models. And they dumped paint on the floor trying to get this TV out so that it could slide across the floor. And they were trying to get it down the escalator. And I remember just this grinding sound of the escalator just, as the escalator went, it just kept taking a chunk out of the bottom of the TV. And it's just like, when did it go from being upset about a verdict to let's grab a TV and get it down the escalator? And then just the destruction. Within the next morning, I mean, a good portion of the city was on fire.
I mean, it looked like a war zone, I'd imagine.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
To the point where the fire department had to retreat. We then had to
because it was dangerous for them?
They were getting shot at. We had to go in, SWAT had to go in and start clearing fire stations because they were under attack. People were throwing bricks at the building, so they locked down, so SWAT had to come in and get firemen out. So we then switched our mission from going out to arrest, and it was guarding fire trucks so that they could go out and fire. So put out fires and go to the next fire, and we'd have to escort and protect them.
Yeah.
Because they were just constantly, we were getting shot at.
Yeah. So I was 15 years old. So brush me up on, was it a slow progression of a combination of it dying down and also police enforcement doing their job to get some sort of normalcy? Was there like an automatic switch where everybody just stopped rioting? Like, what did it look like? How did it end, I guess?
Well, I think is more that first night we were sitting there listening to, it's what we call a tactical alert. And we would hear on the radio, so many units from Las Vegas coming code 3, so many units coming from Arizona code 3. We had units coming from Washington State, Oregon, Northern California, Texas were coming in to back us up. So
was
it really
military ever called?
Military, the United States Marine Corps, the National Guard came in. Okay. There was a very famous shooting with a National Guardsman. Somebody tried to run over a National Guard station or a road check, and he did have to discharge his weapon. But the United States Marine Corps came in from Camp Pendleton towards the end of it, day 6 or day 7. So it was really 7 days of really bad. But towards day 5 or 6, if I remember correctly, it started slowing down. People needed to get food. People needed to, not a sense of normalcy because it wasn't normal, but the mood changed. But day 1 and 2, scary.
Yeah.
Scary. Everyone was on edge. It was fight or flight.
How old were you around?
Oh man, I was 22 years old.
Dang. Yeah,
I was a
very
very young
little kid.
Yeah, I was a very young reserve police officer.
Wow.
So I graduated the academy 1090. So October 90th is when I graduated the police academy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was a young recruit.
Yeah.
I remember watching that on Channel 1 News.
Channel 1?
Yeah. Like at school, they were just showing it like bits and pieces. And I remember going home and like my family was all around the table and they were actually watching like adult news. And my mom was like, something bad's going to happen if these people get off. And my uncle's like, they're getting off, blah, blah, blah. And then the riots and stuff happened. And I was like, oh, I guess that's the bad she's talking about.
Yeah, that's what she kind of predicted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was like, these people are going to lose their minds. And they lost their minds.
Quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Quickly it spread. I was amazed how fast the momentum carried. It was fast because back then we didn't live in instant age of awareness. We didn't have phones. We didn't have social media. That didn't exist then.
Yeah.
It was just starting.
So you were there for a while afterwards. Like, was it akin to, and I don't know if you've ever experienced a natural disaster like Hugo, like I did in 1989. I mean, there were signs of the hurricane passing through for years. You saw things slowly get back to normal. Like I would imagine in LA, it was the same sort of thing. There was so much destruction. You saw signs of it for years.
It took the infrastructure quite a long time to rebuild. I mean, a lot of stores, grocery stores, buildings were burned and destroyed, and it took them a long time to recover that.
Yeah. All right, any follow-up questions between you two? We're about to do a 180, big 180.
Oh.
So tell us how you became a chef, and I'm going to tell you guys that it was, I guess, the Sunday before Christmas. Martin brought in a breakfast casserole, and it's the best breakfast casserole I've ever had by a mile. I was like, oh my gosh, does your wife realize how lucky she is? And do you cook a lot at the house?
She's a good cook too. But
he's a good cook too. I ain't gonna lie, Tomelex is good.
I do the majority of the cooking at the house.
Do you cook corn?
I cook corn.
I like it.
We've had some discussions about corn on the podcast, mostly off air. But what was your education background when it comes to culinary?
So I have had a very interesting and exciting life. So the time I was going to the police academy, reserves went at night. I was in culinary school in LA Trade Tech during the day. And so I was working, I wanted to do both. I wanted to be a police officer and I wanted to be a chef at the same time. So I was super engaged and I did both. So it was a love. Food is my love language. Watching people be happy with food, I get a lot of enjoyment from that. That makes me happy inside. That fills my soul, feeding people. So that I decided I was going to do both. And I did.
Yeah.
And I loved being a chef, just just a little bit more. It's a little safer.
Mm-hmm. So tell people, especially locals, would be interested in what your work history is here in Charleston. Like, what do you do currently?
So I am the director of culinary at a nursing home called Presbyterian Communities of South Carolina. So I am in charge of all the food service.
You said nursing home?
Nursing home and assisted living, independent living. I got into contract food service management about 20 years ago because I made a choice when I had children.
Yeah.
I was, prior to that, an executive chef. Did the James Beard House. I had a TV show in Bronx, New York, and Yonkers, New York.
Did you?
So I made a very conscious choice, but I love contract food service management. I love taking care of our residents. Prior to that, I was at MUSC. I ran Ashley River Towers Hospital for their food service. So I've been in healthcare for about 22 years out of my 40 years in culinary.
Yeah. Yeah. Where does Charleston rank as one of the foodie cities for people that love food?
Top of the list.
Really? Number one?
Yeah, top of the list.
Really?
There's some other places that are a little bit better, but Charleston does an amazing job with food.
And would you say quantity and quality? Like there's also a lot of places where you can get really good food?
Quantity and quality, yeah. There's certainly a lot of them. I love that Charleston, we don't have a lot of chain restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
I like that about down here. There's not a lot. I love the mom and pop. I like finding the little niche places. When I lived in Manhattan, I loved finding that little 10-seat restaurant that did the most amazing foods. So I like finding those little niche.
Yeah, I've always said living here, when I see a new restaurant go up, I'm like, you better be good because they will be closed down in months because there's such steep competition.
There really is.
And I've seen literal locations. Like there's a place, I think it's now it used to be Fish and Shrimp House. Before that, it was a Hardee's. I think before I was born, it's right on Folly Road. Now it's like a low country barbecue joint. But I saw that turnover almost every year of restaurants trying to make it. What would be some of your specialties? What's some of your favorite things to cook, and what do you swear by you're one of the best?
So my absolute favorite cuisine to cook is Southwest, South American. That's kind of my culture growing up in Los Angeles. Very influenced on Mexican, South American cuisine, followed next by French. I love French. I did leave Los Angeles and I went to further my culinary education. I went to the Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park, New York. There I was classically trained, and you're trained in every aspect of food. You learn Italian, you learn Asian, you learn French, you learn American cuisine, you learn all of that. And then from there, you find restaurants to continue your learning. So a lot of young chefs will work at a place 1 to 2 years, and then they'll go on to the next hottest restaurant. And then they'll do that for a couple of years, and then they'll go on to the next hottest restaurant, especially in large metropolises like Manhattan, Los Angeles, where you have your celebrity chefs.
Yeah. What are 3 of the best restaurants here in Charleston? Just off the top of your head, there's plenty of them. So what are 3 of the best?
I love Wild Olive.
Yeah.
James Island.
John's Island.
Or John's Island, yes. I love Savvy here in Mount Pleasant for Italian. I found this little hole-in-the-wall Mexican place called Carmen y Juan.
Okay.
And it's the first place that I have actually found that they have menudo on their menu.
What's that?
It's a classic Mexican soup, but it's made with cow tripe stomach. And I was just like, you've got to be kidding me. They have menudo on the menu?
Yeah. Why'd you laugh? Because it is really a hole in the wall?
Well, it is a hole in the wall, but they have one of my fat kid meals is what I call it. They have a burrito that's wrapped in bacon.
Yep. I saw that.
And it is amazing.
Yeah.
So when he said, I was like,
So is the tortilla wrapped in bacon, or the bacon is the tortilla?
no, the tortilla is wrapped in bacon.
Wow. Where is this? Where is it?
It is right in front of
Park West.
Park West.
Mm-hmm.
So when you go in the circle,
Like by Mellow Mushroom.
bear right,
Yeah,
and then
okay.
it's right there.
Okay.
For barbecue, Lewis.
Lewis.
Lewis Barbecue.
Yep. Well, we just went there for during the holidays. All right. So I thought this was so interesting. Again, I heard about the LA riots, your background in culinary arts, and then the celebrities that you encountered. So did you work at a restaurant where celebrities were just in and out?
Several. I was at Wolfgang Puck's restaurant called St.
So these are just top-notch, high-dollar places where celebrities frequented?
Yep.
Okay.
So Restaurant Granita was Wolfgang Puck. I was at the Four Seasons Hotels in Beverly Hills. And then I was with John Sedler at his restaurant called Bikini in Santa Monica.
Okay, just top of your head, who are some of the celebrities that you've come into contact with? And then I want to focus in on Burgess Meredith, who was Mickey in the Rocky movies, and then you had some thoughts on Harrison Ford.
So Harrison Ford, Wilford Brimley, I've cooked for Cheech Marin, Cheech and Chong. I have cooked for, oh goodness gracious, Whoopi Goldberg, Burgess Meredith, of course. I've met and cooked for Eddie Van Halen, Pat Benatar. Frank Sinatra did make a visit, although I did not get to meet him. No one got close to him, but I did get to cook for him.
Did he give compliments to the chef?
He did, but you did not get close. So there was a lot. There was kind of always that. They were everywhere.
Yeah.
Sylvester Stallone, I've cooked for.
Oh my gosh.
John Travolta, I've cooked for.
Yeah. And when you say cook for, are you meaning that they came into the restaurant and ordered food that you made?
Yes.
Okay.
I've cooked for Elton John.
Yeah.
When I was at the Four Seasons. Arnold Schwarzenegger, even though he lived down the street, he had a suite at the Four Seasons in Beverly Hills. And I can tell you what he still ordered for breakfast, and he probably still eats the same thing. It was a double omelet with spinach and tomato, double home fries, and 6 pieces of whole wheat toast. And we knew it was his order because he ordered the same thing every time. And we got this VIP list.
The breakfast nader.
Yeah, we got this VIP list, and we could always tell it was superstars because it was Mickey Mouse. It was no real names. So that's the name that the front desk had, was Mickey Mouse's in such and such room. But we knew who was in, especially Elton John, because he would forward us what he wanted us to cook because he was a strict vegetarian.
Yeah.
And he had his own recipes. But we knew he was coming because our first MUSA order would be double berries in the morning. It was like, that's him.
Gotcha.
He ordered the same thing.
All right. So if I remember correctly, because this was so interesting to me, because Rocky's my favorite movie series. Burgess Meredith, I want to say, came to a restaurant, ordered food that you no longer had on the menu, and because you guys made it for him, he gave you his property for beach access, like you could use his house to access the beach.
He not only did he do that, but he was allowed to come through the kitchen because at that point he was pretty elderly. He lived right behind our restaurant, it was in Malibu, and he was allowed to come. Wolfgang allowed him to come through the restaurant because it was too far of a walk to come back around. So he came through in his little crackly voice, "Hey guys," and "Hey Burge," and that's what he wanted to be called. He didn't want to be called Mr. He didn't want to be called Mr. Meredith. He didn't want to be called Burgess. It was Burge, and he'd walk through the kitchen and he would talk to everybody. Everybody knew him, and he would go out and he would go sit at the bar, and we would make him his scallop dish. I don't remember exactly what was in it, and it was from like 6 menus ago, but it was his favorite. So we made sure we always had those ingredients in house for him because he was in probably 4 or 5 days a week.
Jeez.
And as part of he allowed us to then at night, we could go through his gate. He left it unlocked for us, and we could use his private beach at night. Couple rules. Not be loud. Do not leave a mess. Close the gate when you're done. And so
he's going to eat lightning and crap under.
But he was, out of everyone that I ever met, he was by far the nicest, most approachable, most down-to-earth person you could ever meet.
That's so cool. So I told you that I was going to ask you this, and I think it's especially an important concept for Christians who are supposed to live by love. Like, I think it's a form of prejudice when we think of the Hollywood elite and we put them all in the same category. They're all snobs. They're all entitled. And it's like, you really think that every single Hollywood celebrity is cut from the exact same cloth? There's got to be some down-to-earth, nice, kind, generous, courteous people who are not self-centered. And Burgess Meredith, you gave as an example. I think you said Harrison Ford was a super kind guy. Or
he was very, very nice.
Yeah.
He was there. He was at the Four Seasons often. And I remember one time he was there, and it was his anniversary. And the maitre d' had told us it was his anniversary. So I was making his omelet out on the Sunday brunch. And I said, Mr. Ford, I said, happy anniversary. And he stopped because he just looked at me and he's like, thank you very much. Because it wasn't that I needed anything from him. I was recognizing him for his anniversary. And he just stopped, and after I made his omelet, he came around and shook my hand. He was just very approachable, very nice. He's very introverted. Mm-hmm. He's very private, very shy, which complete opposite of the characters he plays.
Right.
Complete opposite. But he was so nice, so approachable.
Yeah. Now, I'm imagining you ran into some that do fit the stereotype of Hollywood.
Oh, absolutely.
And here's what will be fun. We'll drive our listeners crazy. You can say a few names and we'll bleep them out because I don't want to talk smack about people on the podcast. But here are some that were just like, you have got to be kidding me.
The most obnoxious customer we ever had. We cringed when we saw her. All of us. It was a collective, because
just you couldn't do anything right?
There was nothing you could do was right. Nothing you could do for her was right.
That's so awesome.
And at that time, she was dating, and he just polar opposites because he was approachable. He was nice. He wasn't condescending. And she would do something, and I remember vividly, they were at the table, and he was just like, kind of put his hands up like, I don't know what to do here. Leave me out of this. I'm fine. Leave me. But she lived for making a scene.
Oh my goodness. Any other that comes to mind? Yeah.
Surface was nice, but then there would be other things that were like, ooh, where'd that come from?
Yeah.
It's like, that was mean. I remember one time she was very gracious to somebody that said, I just want to thank you and can I take a picture? And then there was other times the same approach, very nice, very respectful, and she was just very standoffish. No, this is my private life. And it's like, where'd that come from?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, what keeps you around Seacoast? What do you like about this place?
Oh my gosh. How much time do we have?
Just give us one example.
Just everything. Honestly, we started coming down here before we even moved here. We vacationed here a lot, and we found this church by accident. We were driving by and was like, whoa, what is that? So we looked it up, and we were still on a Sunday, so we came, and just the way we were welcomed from the very minute we walked in the door. I put on my hazard lights, and we got parking. And just the way we were greeted at the door, and we were brought to the welcome center, the little table, and given our little bag. And we made a point of every time we would come down for vacation, we would come here if we could. And I got transferred down here 2 years early before my wife. So my wife and son stayed in Virginia, and I was down here 2 years early. And I came when I could come. And it felt like home. And I didn't work to get connected into the church until my wife came down. I purposely waited till my wife was down before we got connected and found things. And I worked really hard to find something that scared me to be connected. And online scared me. Never done it before. What is setting up a camera? What is lights? Completely not my world.
Gosh, I assumed you had a background in
No, logistics, planning, coordinating, yes, very much. That's food service. So I'm very good at that. That's my core. But setting up cameras, mics, running a switch, from, okay, we're going from worship center back to the host, scares the living daylights out of me.
Gotcha. So we have rookie volunteers doing our production.
For that year, as I learned that scared me.
Yeah.
Because I've done food service all my life. I didn't want to do food here. I wanted to do something that challenged me.
Yeah.
Same thing for my wife, same thing for my son. We're all very connected on the Dream Team. And that's...
Yeah, he works with students, right?
He works with the students, yeah.
Awesome. What's his name again?
Andrew,
that's
yeah.
right.
And my wife is on the prayer team.
Yeah.
So we found things that challenged us. And because we don't want to just receive from the church, we want to give to the church. That's definitely our mission. That's what we want to do. We want to give back to the church in ways that provide value and provide a service to the church as well. And I've been on that, doing the online church now for a year with Pastor Ryan and Caitlin and yourself and Gabe. Absolutely love it.
Yeah,
it's a challenge. It scares me. Still scares me even after a year, and I love it.
Awesome. Martin, thanks so much for being here with us. The stories were very intriguing. Your background, the same. And thank you, Tomelex. Jack, by the way, when this episode releases, it'll be a little bit far removed, but great job on your message that we all watched after Christmas. Very, very good.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yep.
You've been watching Seacoast Church's Things You Won't Hear on Sunday podcast. You can now become a patron of this podcast and receive exclusive content. Your support goes towards Seacoast ministry efforts and local presence. Also, be sure to leave us a review and subscribe to this podcast so that you get these episodes as soon as they're released. All of this information can be found in the show notes. Thanks for watching.